Shall we begin?
The one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying. In spite of everything you've done for them, eventually they will hate you.
Alright, greetings bots and fembots. Now, in our last episode, when talking about the Predacons, I briefly brought up the subject of repaints. So, you might be curious exactly what is a repaint? What qualifies for that? And so here we have a pretty good example here. As you might remember, we have one of the Predacons introduced in Battle Protocol was Gas Skunk. And you'll notice I have two skunks here that are the exact same mold, meaning the actual physical object are the same. These two toys here are mirror counterparts of each other. But you'll notice there is a difference in color. Now in this case, there actually is not a very strong difference in color. They're actually quite similar to each other. That's why I think Gas Skunk makes such an excellent example of what a repaint is. The original toy is on my left. This is the Maximal Stink Bomb from the Beast Wars line. Sarah, the third season era of Beast Wars. See, it's a black skunk with a white stripe going along his back, and he's got some yellow limb components as well as a little yellow detail on his back, red eyes, a little red trim, and gold chrome. On the right is Gas Skunk from Robots in Disguise. Now remember that in between Beast Wars and Robots in Disguise you had Beast Machines, which lasted for 2 seasons. So these guys are actually a couple of years apart from the release dates. He's also black, and it's about the same tone of black. But the white stripe, which I'm not sure how well you can see it with this camera, but it's actually more of a silver color. And they've even actually gone and painted the claws, as you can see on him, silver. Whereas for Stink Bomb, they're just black like the rest of his limbs. This also is done with the teeth. On Gas Skunk, they're silver. On Stink Bomb, they're not. They're just black like the rest of the head. This is not at all unusual with a repaint. When you're trying to sell, especially several years later, the exact same mold that quite possibly Transformer fans already own, you want them or try to get them to buy the same mold potentially. So giving not only a different paint job, but a better paint job, a higher quality of application of the paints is essential to convincing someone to buy it, that this may be a superior version. Gas Skunk also has yellow, and the yellow on the limbs is close to being the same tone as this yellow. But the yellow actually on the back here is a duller yellow. Again, not sure how well you can tell with the camera. You'll also notice the chrome, the actual chrome bits, are not gold on Gas Skunk, but in fact they are silver. And more paint application is done to the tail as well. Not only does the tail have black on it, thus giving the silver-white stripe as a back, but there's also this orange, sort of chrome, translucent almost paint job given on the back as well. The yellow on him is actually almost more orange, although not quite. As you can see, actual orange here on the tail, but it's sort of an orangish yellow, making it a little bit darker. The red, both of the eyes and the back, is also a little bit darker than it is on Stink Bomb, which is a little bit brighter. Perhaps making him Stink Bomb, who is a Maximal and therefore a good guy, more friendly, whereas the more darker Gas Skunk is a Predacon. And again, remember, while Beast Wars had the Maximals being mammals, Robots in Disguise has no particular set beast mode for its Predacons. If it's an animal, it's a Predacon. There doesn't even appear to be Maximals in their universe, although possibly there are Dinobots. We may discuss that at a later date. But that is only in reference to the toy line, not the show. All animal transformers in 2001's Robots in Disguise are Predacons. So let's take a further look at Gas Skunk. We will remove Stink Bomb. So this is Gas Skunk. I don't have the best camera and lighting here, but hopefully you can get a good impression of how he looks. It's not a bad beast mode. It does not particularly stand too well, but it's not terribly difficult to get into a decent pose. I actually bought this in 2001, so this is slightly worn out. As you can see, the paint is rubbed off in a couple areas, and the tail won't really pose very well. Gas Skunk is perhaps the closest there is to a leader among the Three Stooges Predacons. They don't really have a leader, per se, a little bit like the Autobot brothers. The Predacons minions here are pretty much interchangeable as far as personality goes, but Gas Skunk might be, at least wise, the most aggressive of the three, barely. And he often does seem to, I guess he could function to some degree as the Mo of the group if we stretch our Three Stooges metaphor. I have heard some people refer to these Predacons as the field team, or some such thing, but this has no bearing in the show. Maybe it's a reference to the Japanese version, I'm not sure, but they're better known among American fans and audiences as the Three Stooges, as that is the role they play in the show. For articulation in beast mode, it's fairly basic. He does have a fairly good shoulder rotation for his front legs, as well as a sort of reverse knee, both ball jointed, so he's got pretty much full range of motion. And in fact, this ankle joint is also ball jointed, giving him a nice amount of rotation for that as well. The back legs here for the thigh, if you will, or shoulder if you like, also is ball jointed. But the knee here is just a hinge, so only goes forward and backwards. There is no ankle here. The tail is on a ball joint and a hinge combo, allowing you pretty free range motion here. This hinge is actually part of the robot mode and is not intended for the beast mode, although obviously you own the toy, do what you want. And the head has absolutely no articulation. It does not look side to side, the jaw doesn't move, nothing. Now to transform him is fairly basic. You simply release the head, it swings down, that allows the back here to hinge open. You then rotate him to stand up, and you can already see the robot mode here taking shape. Spin the hip around, spin the ankles around, and you have him from the pelvis down here. Rotate these while folding up the legs, and rotate the robot arms down and spin them around. All this spinning here does tend to create a lot of loose joints, unfortunately, with him, if you have owned him for an extended period and have transformed him enough times, but again, it varies. Some of these joints hold up better than others. Now, popping up the robot head here, you can pull the skunk head in, pop the robot head down, and there you go. And for his weapon, you release the claw here. This is Gas Skunk's robot mode. So, color-wise is mostly the same. He's got more yellow in this form, and perhaps a bit less of the silver. You can see green has actually been added to him here as well, going with the red on his chest. And you see, again, I like Robots in Disguise's paint job. You can see they've even bothered to paint inside the palms of his beast mode legs here, and even a little bit here. Robots in Disguise, especially early Robots in Disguise, had a phenomenal paint job. One of the best I've seen, to be honest, not matched even in most modern toy lines. Interestingly enough, Gas Skunk has a sort of red domino mask. It always reminded me of Nightwing from Batman fame. They've even painted his teeth silver, and he has surprisingly friendly blue eyes. An interesting little color theme in the original series back in the 80s is the Autobots all have blue eyes in the show, and the Decepticons all have red eyes. that only is in the original cartoon. Beast Wars varied the color, and there's no theme to it at all, and it's not been thematic since. But I always find it interesting when a bad guy has blue eyes, since it used to be a Autobot exclusive color. An unfortunate side effect of being a Beast War toy, there was a bit of this theme in Beast Wars that would occasionally pop up of not giving a Transformer a proper weapon. I'm not sure if this reflected the fact that these had beast modes and they wanted to emphasize the tooth and claw nature, but a lot of Beast War Transformers, well, I say a lot. It's probably not the majority, but it's not uncommon, however, that a lot of Beast War Transformers actually lack proper weapons. You can see tail weapon attached to the back of his head is, in fact, his weapon that he uses in combat. You actually remember that Gas Skunk used that in the Battle Protocol show against Prowl, or Battle Protocol episode. So, but he lacks any kind of sword, or gun, or shield, or any piece of equipment. I know for me, as a collector, I very much prefer my Transformer comes with an actual weapon he can hold. Regardless of what theme you're going for, even if it is an animalistic tooth and claw type concept, it feels very cheap not to include some type of accessory with the toy. Even as a kid, I felt like that was a cheap move on their part. For every Transformer I got that did not have some kind of accessory, you expect them to have something to hold in robot mode. Because after all, these are action figures. Especially via Kenner, when they started doing Beast Wars, they emphasized the action figure nature. You expect an action figure of a G.I. Joe or Star Wars or whatever to have a piece of equipment to hold. Same goes true for Transformers. And it's really something Hasbro should make sure that they include. I do believe they do much better with that nowadays, and it's rarer for them not to have something. Regardless, for articulation, it's roughly about the same, or slightly better perhaps, than his Beast Mode. Again, he's got the nerve articulation there, the knees are on the same ball joint, and he has the same ankle ball joint as well. His shoulders are a ball joint, and now he actually has a ball jointed elbow, so slightly improved there. These are also a little bit tighter than the ankles, I find, so that's nice. You can get some good poses out of that. Unlike his Beast Mode head, his robot head is situated on a ball joint itself, allowing not only to turn, but to have a very limited up and down motion as well. And of course, he still has the ball joint hinge combo tail. And of course, here is where you're supposed to make use of that claw hinge for his weapon. Now, like all Transformers from the third season era of Beast Wars, Transmetal 2 technically, although Robertson Skies does not ever use that term, they do have a spark crystal. As we mentioned before, if we can catch the light with it, there is indeed a Predacon spark crystal here. So, hopefully you can get a fairly good look at the Predacon spark crystal. You see it's a pink or violet shaped kind of orb with a Predacon symbol inside of it. Now, it's an interesting feature on this toy, perhaps to balance out the fact that it's in his shoulder, is he actually has an identical little compartment on the other side. However, there's no spark crystal inside. In fact, it's just a faceless orb. Well, faceless, I say, but just an orb with a couple of little techno details in it. Unfortunately, even Robertson Skies did not bother to paint it. I have no idea what it's supposed to be. Perhaps it's an actual weapon, but he never uses it in the show. And now we can compare him to his Beast War counterpart, the Maximal Stink Bomb. Yes, they both have such glorious names. So you can, again, see the color schemes are very similar. Black legs. The claws are not painted. The claws are not painted on Stink Bomb. They have the same yellow upper legs, the same yellow pelvis section, mostly black torso with a yellow painted front, black arms and black arms, both the upper and lower, but the claws again are not painted on Stink Bomb. He also has the red domino mask, and he also has painted teeth, actually, although they're the white rather than the silver. And he actually has white eyes instead of blue. You notice a little less detail, but they both have red parts on the chest. Gas Skunk has green as well, and here on top of the head, they both actually have this detail, but only Gas Skunk's is painted silver, whereas Stink Bomb's are just left black. And of course, you can also see the gold where he has silver, as well as the black and orange at the tail section. Stink Bomb also has a spark crystal, but you can see his is a green maximal symbol instead of the pink one. And similarly, he also has the orb on the other side that is not painted. Now, there is a bit of some contention with repaints, whether the proper name for them is repaint or redeco. The proper, you'll find that the Transformer wikis and the like will even discuss this. The proper term is repaint. Redeco properly refers to redecoration. Actually means to use things like stickers and to reposition them or use different ones. But these guys don't have a different decoration. They are in fact a different paint. Whether that paint is applied onto the figure or it's the paint added to the plastic when the figure is made. The proper term is indeed repaint. That pretty much wraps up Gas Skunk. Like I said, in Robots in Disguise, there's not too much to his character. He has the head-attached tail claw, which seems like it would be quite a weight on his neck. He does seem to have some type of gas ability, but rarely makes much use of it. So thank you for joining me for this Transformer review. This has been Robots in Disguise, Predacon, Gas Skunk.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shore of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
It's amazing how a nice day can turn into such a bummer.